some kind of a commercial or something.
Look at
right?
you. That's why she's
got to be about that time.
That's why she's the executive producer, ladies and gentlemen. She calls the shots here. So, with that being said, let's cue the music for the outro there. And when we come back, we will have Dawn's News here on the Gear Radio Network.
You're listening to Get Ready America on the Gear Radio Network.
Yo, back up now and give a brother room.
A successful product does not become a successful product on its own. Look at the Gear Radio Network, for example. We're a prime example. We had a lot of help getting here, and we can help you get where you want to go to. Advertising rates are very low to start off here on the Gear Radio Network. Visit us at gearnetwork.com. Click on the contact link to send us an email, and we can work out the details. Again, advertise your product across all of the forums at a low, low rate here on the Gear Radio Network.
Ryan Wolf here, the host of the Better Live Than Dead podcast. Join my co-host, Mr. Perez, and myself as we talk the latest and greatest through the sports world. For the latest, check us out on Facebook.com/BLTD podcast, and hear us each and every week exclusively on the Gear Radio Network.
From the Gear Network studios, once again, here's John and Dawn.
And we are back, and look at this, we are jamming, ladies and gentlemen. Boom, shake, shake, shake the room. That's a classic Fresh Prince jam.
I don't pick the music for your show.
What's the
so
matter?
Don't blame me.
What's the matter? Listen, 99 cents. iTunes, Gear Network. It's 99 cents.
Right.
You can relive all your 90s awesomeness. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Did you watch that show?
Of course.
Okay, do you remember when this song was the premiere, they premiered the video, like, after an episode you had to stay there?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was funny. It was like in between the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Blossom. You remember Blossom?
Of course.
Okay, so in between the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Blossom was the new Will Smith video. Well, it wasn't Will Smith. He was the Fresh Prince back then, but of Boom Shake the Room, and it was, a highly rated video, because all the teenagers that were watching that were, going from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to Blossom, listened to the song, and then the radio played it out, and it stayed in the 90s.
Fine.
It stayed in the 90s, but I brought it back.
I'm just saying, if we get to the point where you played, like, LL Cool J, I Need Love, I'm out. I mean, it's got to end somewhere, right?
That's all it's going to take?
Yeah, that's all it'll take.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and it is time for news you can use, I guess. It is Dawn's news segment. Take it away, Dawn.
Typically, I like to talk about a variety of news stories, both local and on a national level, whatever the case may be. This week, I'm going to focus just on the violence. I mean, it seems like one thing after another, rapid fire, so to speak, coming in. And it's just crazy to me. Like, every time I look at the news, outside of just the violence within Rochester, which is just ridiculous.
We are East Compton.
It's horrible. Outside of that, I mean, just some of the things to start with. This hatchet attack by what they're saying is a suspected terrorist in New York City, where a group of officers are having their picture taken by a freelance photographer, from what I'm reading, and this man attacks them with a hatchet in broad daylight. I mean, that's just insanity to me. What is seriously going on in people's heads that would make them do that? I can't even begin to comprehend, obviously, because I'm not crazy, but nevertheless, so he ends up hitting a 25-year-old officer in the head with the hatchet, who's currently in critical but stable condition.
Okay, that's good.
And then a 24-year-old officer in the arm, who thankfully has been treated and released, and ended up being, of course, shot to death by the other officers. Unfortunately, New York City, how populated that is. I mean, you can't even take a step without somebody being there. So, imagine these officers are, like, trying to shoot at this gunman. Well, unfortunately, a stray bullet also hits a 29-year-old woman who was hit in the back, and she's also in critical but stable condition.
You know, when it comes to things like this, you see it all the time on the Book of Faces. You see it, comments on it. You see, the public sees or hears the attack with the hatchet, but the public blows up the person that got shot from the bullet. So you see a lot of and I see these all the time when cops go bad videos, and there are some legitimate cases and some legitimate videos where cops go, they go a little wiggy, and they don't do what they're supposed to do, or they abuse their power. But that's stood the test of time. But when you have a situation like this where an officer is being attacked, where does it end?
Right, and again, they're calling it an act of terror. They're saying that this man he converted to Islam. So they're not thinking this is just like necessarily some random, attack that they're not sure why it happened. They're saying that this was, thought out, pre-planned, obviously, attack.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. A lot of times I cannot stand how they're so quick to group the word terror into it, or terrorism into it. No, this was just an asshole that, okay, maybe it's coincidental. He studies Islam. Who cares? But it's just an asshole that was doing something he honestly shouldn't have. He attacked a cop. Now, could it be terrorist related? It could be. No. It very well could be. But the fact is that the media always is quick to put that label. Their scare tactics, whatever website you're looking at, whatever side of the fence you're on, it's terrorist attack. It's a terrorist attack. No, what's a terrorist? What's an act of terror? An act of terror is if your son or your daughter is being held hostage by a masked coward with a British accent somewhere out in the desert somewhere, using religion as an excuse to go ahead and behead the individuals, like ISIS or ISIL, whatever you call them. That is terror. That is an act of terrorism. Those are acts of terrorism. What this is an act of rebellion.
Right. I have to agree, because again, whether or not this individual decided that he was going to base it on his religious feelings, that I don't know, but it certainly was not a group effort. It was not an attack like that. This is an individual who made this decision on his own.
Exactly.
So I do agree with that. And then, of course, to move along, we also had a school shooting, yet another school shooting.
Christ.
Seriously, I'm ready to homeschool my kids. It's just horrible. But this one is a little different. And the reason why it strikes me as so odd, aside from the fact it's just a school shooting, but the teenager who shot other students, apparently they were all his close friends. And it's just very strange to me, because nobody seems to know, of course, they never know what the motive of these shootings are, right?
Right.
Nobody knows anything. But this teenager stood up during lunch. He was sitting with the group, is my understanding, stood up during lunch, pulled out a .40 caliber handgun, and shot his friends right there at the table. Two of which they're reporting are his cousins. So, as it stands right now, my understanding is he did kill one girl. Then there's 2 boys and 2 girls who are currently still hospitalized. 1 girl in serious condition, the other 3 in critical condition currently. But again, you're talking about he was a homecoming prince, I believe. by all accounts, a popular kid, not bullied, like sometimes they blame it on bullying, right? No, that's not the situation here. And these are his close friends. So just a really strange story. I don't know whether or not more will unfold, because you know how these stories tend to come out, and then you just never really end up hearing about what a potential motive was. But, so again, a lot of violence there. And then we can move right along to in California, where 3 other officers were shot. Two officers killed, 1 wounded by a couple. It started at a hotel where the officers approached the vehicles, and one of them was shot at close range. Another woman, a driver of a car that they attempted to hijack, was also shot and killed. So, just craziness going on there as well. Again, no potential motive. They're not sure why this happened,
There never is when it comes to that. There are just some sick people. Some sick people in this world.
Yeah.
And, there's no way around that. You're going to get the people that are going to be like, oh, well, we could help them. Some people just don't want to be helped.
Right.
They don't want to be helped. And it's unfortunate, but things like this happen, and they shouldn't, but they do. And there may not even be a motive. They may just be doing it for the hell of it. They may just wake up and literally, they may just wake up and say, fuck it, I'm going to kill somebody.
Right. And to be honest, they're talking in this particular case, and I am generally not one to just speculate. But in this particular case, they were talking about it happened at, basically a cheap motel. I think they said the rooms were like $50 a night. It's a couple, or, a man and a woman, whether or not they're a couple, I don't know. So, you start to wonder, maybe were drugs involved? Obviously these are probably some shady individuals. It's not like there's some, upstanding citizens that woke up and thought, hey, today we're going to go kill some police officers. So I'm sure something was going on in that car. There was some fear of them being arrested, so they shot the police officer. I don't think that it was their intent when they started their day to shoot a police officer. I think it was more just a circumstance where the police officers came up on them. They panicked. They didn't know what to do. They shot. But then, they go crazy. They don't know what to do. So they start carjacking and killing other officers. And, in the end, those 2 individuals are in custody. So at least they are no longer on the street.
Thankfully.
And then, I'm going to just kind of close out this week of terror, so to speak, with one that hit a little bit close to home to me, and that was a shooting in Ottawa.
Yes.
And you probably think, well, Ottawa, why would that hit close to home, right? My brother actually works in Ottawa often. He has an account, and that's where he has to travel to, is Ottawa, and he actually works with the Parliament. So in Ottawa, a gentleman shot a soldier, I believe, at the National War Monument. So that's how this started. So a young soldier dead. Then this guy ran into the Parliament building where reportedly more shots were fired. Nobody hit. And the shooter ended up being killed inside that building by a sergeant at arms that was in there. And then the Parliament building, as well as several other buildings in the area, were all put on lockdown because there was some question as to whether or not there was a second shooter involved, things like that. Mm-hmm. Now, knowing my brother was there, of course, when I hear this story, you kind of panic because you don't know what's going on. We try to call him, but of course you can't get a hold of him because he's in Canada, so his phone's off. So even though we're kind of hearing these reports that it's just an officer that's shot, you don't know what's going on.
You don't.
And, it really, when it hits close to home like that, I don't know, it's a whole nother thing. I mean, obviously, anytime I hear about an attack, it's upsetting to me. But this one, I panicked a little bit. And I was very relieved when we finally got a hold of him and found out it was okay. But again, I'm a young officer or a young soldier's life was taken senselessly for no reason.
Right, and it's unfortunate that things like this happen. It's a sick world out there. I don't know what the hell's in the water where people are that do these things. That I would classify as an act of terror.